Today we're going to be turning a piece of pre-made railway track into something a little bit more adaptable for the film. So we're going to be turning this to this using paints and a weathering process. Hopefully we get enough track done for the parts of the film that are needed. We bought these from a Caterpillar train set. They're already textured. It's got a nice rail on it as well, and it's of a size that suits our needs. Right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get rid of some of the excess parts on here, maybe do a bit of damage on some of the sleepers, get rid of them. And we're just going to use a razor saw to cut through the plastic. It should only take a couple of minutes, and then clean up with some sanding and a knife just to clear the other bits off. Right, so here's one with the excess cut off. I've taken a sleeper out as well, sanded it down, and that's ready for priming. So important that we prime. I never used to on model kits, but some plastics don't like paint, so we give it a primer coat just to adhere the paint a little bit better. Always prime your stuff. It's an unwritten rule. Right, so we've primed a piece. It's not the same piece as the other one. A little bit of tidying up to do, sanding. Depending on what colours you're going to use, I would either use a white primer or a grey primer, unless you're using darker colours, in which case I'd use a black primer. Things like reds, yellows, etc. go better on white, obviously. It does affect the colour that you're putting on. So always think about what colours you're going to use and use a primer appropriately for it. So lighter colours white, darker colours black or grey. Grey's a good neutral actually, but we're using white for this because we've got some nice wood tones to go on. So all we're going to do is we're going to tidy up just using nail file sanding sticks. You can get these in a pound shop, or nick them off your sister or mother. And all we're going to do is sand down the rough edges that we've cut off until we're happy with the finish, and then we can paint over the top of that. But these are nothing you can buy 30 or 40 for a pound. The two base coats we're putting on is the first wooden effect, which is just a normal brown, and then a silver effect on the track. And then we'd enhance it with other colours when we come to sort of putting finishing touches and weathering. But essentially all you're putting down is basically that one base brown colour on the sleepers and then a silver effect on the track. Using acrylics here, as acrylics do dry very, very quickly, which means that you can get quite a few coats on in a very short time and get onto the weathering process. For something like putting the base colours on, a good brush isn't essential. I always try and use a good brush, but when you're speed working, just slapping the paint on is sometimes the best thing to do. Variety of other brushes, you can use makeup brushes for doing some dry brushing, which I'll show you later. Different size brushes for details. But when you're just layering on paint, any brush will do as long as it's half decent. Right, so when you've got your base colours down, we need to put some variation in the tones. The easiest way to do that is by putting a black wash on, or a dark brown wash if you're using woods. All you do is you just cover the area with the paint. It's a nice watered down paint, and it should go into all the recesses. Other weathering methods, especially wood, you want to get the grain highlighted, so you'd use 3 or 4 different tones of brown. Just put speckled effects on there, brush them in, and then on the top do a dry brush, which you use very little paint on, flick across the model, and it should just cover the high rise parts of the model, giving you a nice contrast between dark and light. And then we're going to put some rust on it with a couple of paints, just to put some weathering on the track itself. Being metal, some rust is some nice contrast. And then overall, once it's done, we're going to put a matte varnish over it to seal it, so that all the paint is easy to touch, it doesn't come away. Okay, so this is the finished piece of track. You can see there we've got some rust that we put some on the sides of the track there, and you can also see some of the grain that's come out on the sleepers. So this is virtually done. All it needs now is the minecart that we've built in another video to show you the finished effect. And there you go, once it goes on, there you go. There's the minecart on its track.